After that night, the rancher faced something terrifying, a dark Western mystery story. The Last Ride of Clay Boone, a Wild West Tale. Clay Boone had always known two things in life: how to ride and how to work hard. At 37, his face was weathered by sun, his hands tough as rawhide. Boone's ranch sat on the lonely edge of sagebrush and plains in eastern Colorado, a place where the wind howled like a living thing and storms rolled in without warning. Every morning before dawn, Clay would saddle his black gelding, Lobo, and ride out to check fences or look for strays. Most days were routine, predictable, almost peaceful. But every now and then, the land seemed to whisper of secrets, of things buried beneath the dust and grass, unseen yet unforgettable. On an October morning shimmering with frost, Clay felt such a whisper in the back of his mind. The sunrise was blood-red behind distant hills, and an eerie quiet settled on the ranch. Even the crows were silent. He paused, reins in hand, scanning the horizon. Something was wrong. The strange tracks. Clay first noticed the tracks near the North Corral, prints unlike anything he'd seen before. They were huge, far too large for cattle or horses, and set deep in the damp earth like claws had dug their way through. They trailed off toward the old canyon that ran behind the ranch. "Must be some big cat," he muttered to Lobo. Mountain lions were known in these parts, but no animal that size made claws like pitchforks. He followed the trail an hour into the canyon. The walls narrowed, shadows dancing in the rising sun. The tracks disappeared near a cave entrance, a dark maw that seemed to breathe cold air. Clay hesitated, but curiosity, like fear, has a way of gripping a man's bones until he moves forward. The first night, that night Clay couldn't sleep. He lay on his cot staring at the ceiling of his small ranch cabin. The wind rattled the window panes, but beneath it, another sound. Something scratched on wood and stone outside. He grabbed his rifle and crept outside. The moon was clouded, silver barely brushing the land. Lobo whinnied softly in the stable. Clay walked toward the sound, rifle at the ready. Nothing, only the tracks, large, deep, circling around the water trough as if something had paced for hours. "All right," Clay whispered to himself. "You wanna show yourself, show up." But the night stayed still. Strange lights on the ridge. The following afternoon, Clay was fixing a broken fence when he saw it, a faint glow up on the ridge. At first, he thought it was the sun reflecting off rock, but the sun was sinking low already. The glow pulsed, a soft amber flame flickering, though there was no fire. He climbed up on horseback, Lobo sure-footed on the rocky slope. When Clay reached the top, the light faded as if someone had blown it out. No people, no animals, just wind, grass, and that sense of something watching. A black mass in the night. That night was worse. Clay awoke to a heavy thump outside, then another, and deep growls that didn't match any animal he'd heard before. He slipped on his boots, loaded his rifle, and stepped outside. The moon had broken free of clouds. In the yard, an enormous silhouette stood just beyond the stables. It was massive, easily twice the size of a horse, with eyes glowing yellow. Clay froze. The beast let out a guttural growl, low and resonant, shaking the ground. Instinct took over. Clay fired his rifle into the darkness. The creature roared, a sound that echoed over the plains like thunder, then vanished into the night. Clay stood still, heart pounding. The smell of sulfur lingered in the air. Something was fundamentally wrong. The stranger comes to town. 2 days later, Clay rode into the nearest town, a dusty settlement called Bitter Creek. Folks were friendly but uneasy. Rumors of disappearances and livestock found shredded to pieces were spreading. At the saloon, Clay heard talk of a stranger who wandered through 2 nights ago. An old man, bent and cloaked, who whispered warnings before riding off. Clay stepped outside and found the stranger leaning against a post, eyes bright under a battered hat. "You look like a man who's seen strange things," the old man said. Clay nodded slowly. "That creature," Clay began. "Did you see it?" The stranger's gaze sharpened. "Seen it? I know what it is." Clay raised an eyebrow. "It's not an animal, it's something old," the man said. "Older than the Rockies and older than most legends." He spoke of native lore, of a spirit guardian twisted by bloodshed and sorrow. A shadow beast born from ancient grief, awakened by violence and hunger. Clay didn't know what to believe, but the old man's eyes were too steady, too convinced. The return home. Clay rode back before dusk. The wind had started up again, shrill and uneasy. When he reached the ranch, everything seemed normal at first. But the cattle were restless, lowing and stamping. And then he saw it, gigantic tracks, fresh, circling the barn like a monstrous wreath. Clay checked the perimeter, heart thundering. He gathered the cattle, preparing to move them to safety. A low growl made him turn. There it was, taller than a man, crouched and coiled like a lion crossed with something else. It wasn't fully flesh or fur. Dark smoke seemed to cling to its body like shadows caught in a storm. It snarled at Clay, a sound that vibrated in his bones. Clay raised his rifle again, hands shaking. He fired. The bullet hit, but the beast didn't fall. Instead, it recoiled in a spray of black mist, eyes blazing brighter than ever. Then it charged. The fight for the ranch. Clay stumbled back, retreating toward the barn. Lobo reared, neighing. The creature leapt, a blur of motion and malice. Clay fired again, this time at its head. A deafening roar filled the valley as the beast hit the ground, writhing. For a heartbeat, Clay thought he'd killed it. Then the ground shook. The creature rose, taller now, as if drawing strength from the earth itself. Clay ran to the barn, convinced he was about to lose everything. Revelation in the darkness. Inside the barn, Clay found something unexpected, the old man from Bitter Creek, holding a lantern. "You don't have to fight it," the stranger said calmly, stepping forward. "You have to understand it." Clay, breathing hard, stared at him. "What do you mean?" The old man explained that the creature was a guardian spirit, not evil, but corrupted by fear and pain. It responded to violence and reacted to threats as if every human was an enemy. "There's only one way to calm it," the old man said. Clay hesitated. "You'll have to face it, without weapons." A test of courage. Clay stepped outside, hands empty, the cold night pressing on his back. The beast stood at the edge of the corral, eyes glowing in the moonlight. Clay called out softly, his voice steady despite the fear twisting in his gut. "Look at me," he said. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the creature approached, each step deliberate, cautious. Clay didn't flinch. He lowered his gaze, then met its eyes again, not with aggression, but with resolve. The wind quieted. The cattle stopped trembling. Silence stretched like a held breath. And then, the beast exhaled, a low rumble that felt like a release of centuries of sorrow. Dawn's light. When dawn broke, the creature was gone. In its place, a gentle breeze brushed the fields. The tracks faded like footprints in sand. Clay stood alone, the rising sun warming his face. The old man appeared beside him. "You did what few could," he said quietly. "You faced fear with courage." Clay nodded, still processing the night's events. The old man tipped his hat. "Some spirits wander until peace finds them. You gave this one a chance." And with that, he walked away, disappearing into the morning haze. A new beginning. Life on the ranch slowly returned to normal. The cattle grazed peacefully, the wind sang its familiar songs, and Clay found a strange sense of calm where fear once dwelled. Neighbors spoke of the strange nights, of glowing eyes and roars, but Clay simply smiled and rode out each morning with Lobo as the sun rose. He knew now that the land held mysteries, ancient, powerful, and sometimes frightening. But even the darkest shadows could be met with courage, and even the most terrifying things could find peace. You enjoy long emotional stories like this? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful narrations.